everyone, and welcome to Green Healing, where we take on this journey together to find emotional healing. So, today I want to talk about the difference between PTSD and CPTSD, and why some people make a distinction between the two, and what I think about it. I figured it's a good place to start since this is what I am healing from to find emotional freedom. So, what's the difference? I have all my notes here. So, if you see me reading, it's because I have all my notes. So, many people refer to PTSD as that of caused by the trauma of wars, battle, and use CPTSD for people who are victims and survivors of trauma and abuse and other forms of trauma. In order to, and this is done in order to distinguish between the two, between veterans and people who experienced other forms of trauma. However, in and of itself, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is quite complex. And other types of trauma exist that cause, that enhance this complexity. And technically, it's all very complex. And CPTSD, well, that's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And they use it to encompass trauma such as parental abandonment, a shock, an illness, witnessing a death, abuse, etc. Personally, I believe that both go together. Many symptoms that veterans have are very similar to symptoms that I experience. And such as, if you want an example, such as being shocked and angered by abrupt, loud noises like a door slamming or a big consistent knocking, super loud. It aggravates me. It causes internal turmoil. Veterans have the same symptom. So I find that, no matter what the cause of the trauma, it's very similar. So post, obviously, is of the past, traumatic, caused by trauma, stress causing grief, distress, and anxiety, disorder in a way that is not natural or how we are meant to just naturally function in our own natural state of well-being. And it causes turmoil in our lives. It causes us to not function the way we would like to function in our lives. And we can experience great pain and physical and emotional pain. So, and obviously the C stands for complex. So to me, CPTSD and PTSD are technically the same. So I will probably be using them interchangeably, at least for now. But obviously, since on this channel and podcast, I will be talking about healing through alternate means and through knowledge. Anyone with any symptoms, PTSD or CPTSD, self-diagnosed or medically diagnosed, are welcome here, obviously. Because the goal is to journey together to heal from trauma. My trauma was abuse. Your trauma might have been slightly different. So I'm going to read you a definition of PTSD that I wrote myself based on other definitions based on my personal experience. That's on my website. And you can check this out yourself. It's on binkyproductions.com/healingthroughhumor, OUR. I will also be reading my first capsule of Healing Through Humor, which was how when I was in the heart of the depression and the symptoms were really intense, the PTSD symptoms were really intense, it was my way of dealing with some of the traumatic experiences by exaggerating, or some moments are actually funny in and of themselves, things that I lived. So here's my definition of PTSD. PTSD is a manic and obsessive debilitating effect of trauma, causing one to be in a constant state of reaction from a past traumatic experience. It includes intrusive flashbacks of the trauma from simple triggers such as intonation, words, phrasing, emotions, dreams, etc., and smells also. And this occurs often and continuously if the mind doesn't protect itself from things that can remind it of the trauma, or if we learn to work that trauma to heal that trauma, because technically a trigger is indicating you have a boo-boo there and it needs to be healed. And so that wound, it alerts us to a specific wound that needs healing. Panic symptoms, feeling panicky as much as downright a panic attack, can occur when one undergoes physiological stimuli to traumatic cues. A trauma, such as abuse, can make the victim feel shattered inside, or even defeated and powerless, which can then lead on to depression. If we don't already have depression, this can bring down a downward spiral. The victim will then develop the assumption that they are too vulnerable, feel little personal worth, and will pretty much feel that life is not fair. A lot of the fairness thing that I experienced personally. They may develop fears or phobias to constantly check their environment and monitor others to make sure that everything is safe and that they are not being or going to be mistreated. So it's again, it's like with an anxiety disorder, it's the fight, flight, freeze reflex that kicks in, and you feel unsafe, as though you're in danger, as though your life is in danger in a situation where you're okay. It's just a trigger, but you're reacting the way you should have reacted back then. Okay, so they may develop fears, phobias to constantly check their environment and monitor sure that everything is safe and that they are not being or going to be mistreated. Some of the most common symptoms of PTSD are anxiety, panic attacks, outbursts of rage, also known as rage attacks, chronic depression, borderline disorder, self-punishment, and social withdrawal. So ultimately, that's my definition of it. Symptoms will vary from person to person. The intensity of a symptom will vary from person to person, obviously. If you recognize yourself, then subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast. As I'm recording this, I don't have the audios yet, but I'm working on having them possible to be possible on iTunes, and you can subscribe to this channel. And obviously, you know, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a doctor or anything like that. I'm just sharing, like I said in my intro, I'm just sharing all the knowledge that I have, that I've gathered, because knowing and understanding has helped me heal so much. And then alternate forms of healing, because I'm allergic to medication, so that's why I took that path. But alternate forms of therapy, alternate forms of healing, natural remedies, earth things, and that sort of thing, which has helped me, that could potentially help you as well. So to conclude this episode, I'm going to read my Healing Through Humor Capsule 1. If you want to look at the stick figure drawings that I did to accompany it, you'll be able to find it on Healing Through Humor on BickyProductions.com/healingthroughhumor, OUR. So let me read that for you. So, living with post-traumatic stress disorder. Things that make you happy make you feel like a cat high on catnip. Me, by the way, spelt M-I, to disassociate myself from myself to create a character of myself, but me obviously is me. So, me, look at the glorious sunshine outside. Let's go biking, and then we can wash all the walls, and then we can invite a bunch of people over and play games around the table. Husband, let's start by getting out of bed. Lows are rather predictable. Me, slumped down on chair. Husband, what's wrong, me? Me, I feel bad. Husband, it happens. You've been through a lot. Me, I wish it were easier to heal though. Husband, I know. Me, I don't want you to think you don't make me happy just because my depression makes me feel less happy than if I were not healing from abuse. Husband, I know. It's normal. So do you have anything planned for today? Me, yeah, to feel bad. And I mean, often when I was in the heart of the depression, I would feel guilty for feeling so depressed when I'm in a situation in my life that technically makes me happy. But it all encompasses everything. Obviously, now that I'm no longer depressed, I can truly feel that happiness, except for in those panic moments or in those rage moments. But it's obviously, I was able to identify that I could feel both happy and depressed in the same moment. So to go on, sometimes you think you're losing your mind. Me, am I bipolar? Husband, no, my love, you're not bipolar. Because of all the symptoms, me, I have thoughts in my head. Husband, well, I hope a thought would be in your head. Me, but it's like voices, because I can almost hear his voice. Husband, that's normal. A lot of people I've spoken to who have experienced abuse, sometimes, the brain will have a lapse. And I mean, it's normal. Sometimes you'll hear a parent's voice when you're walking down the street or something. Just randomly, it's the brain doing something funny. But sometimes when you feel bad, I can actually hear the abuser's voice in my head. And of course, the constant need for reassurance. Ah, yes, a very common trait. Me, are you sure that's normal? Husband, yes, I'm sure. Me, what if it's not? Husband, it's normal. Me, I'm going to call my mom to ask her. Calls mom. Mom, is it normal? Mom, yes, it's normal. Husband, that's PTSD for you folks. And that's pretty much how it is, because I'm a hypochondriac because I have all forms of anxiety, and I'm a hypochondriac. A lot of symptoms are psychosomatic, and I'll think something is not normal. I'll think something is wrong. I'm think, I had neuralgia, and I was like, I'm dying, and I had a panic attack. I thought I was dying because I felt numb all on my left side, my arm and my shoulder blades, and on the left side, just because I slept wrong, and I was all contorted. So it oftentimes, I'll need extra reassurance from a bunch of people. I've obviously learned over time there's certain things I'm able to self-reassure or to work through it, but it's, it is what it is. When panic ensues, and then psychosomatic symptoms begin in the body just because the brain is, the fear of false evidence appearing real. It's just taking what it knows and creating, well, this means this and that means that. Never Google symptoms, because it'll tell you, whenever I Google something, either it tells me that I'm pregnant or that I have cancer. So that, and then I'm like, no, I'm not, I don't have cancer, and, I'm not pregnant, not yet anyway. So it's, we have to figure out to deal with the anxious symptoms. So that's it for today's episode. the difference between PTSD and CPTSD. And I'll continue with more knowledge in the next episode and work on getting the audio versions up on iTunes as well. And so stay tuned for that. Obviously, I'm just starting out on this channel, but this is a place to heal through knowledge and alternate methods and to find emotional freedom. So stay tuned for next time. And in the meantime, stay well, stay healthy, empower yourself, and be emotionally free.